Welcome to the Blue Flare gameplay guide. With the new support from BT2.5, we definitely have a lot of new tools to work with, and the first matchup we're facing off today is going to be Digimon. We are going second here, and decided to keep my hand just because I have a rookie, which is going to be ALittleSpoon to de-digivolve, but most importantly, it's because we have the best option of the entire archetype of the deck, which is going to be Blazing Memory Boost. You guys, if you remember, this card is just so good, giving us so much value instantly, and I'm just gonna go ahead and start playing it out because we get to search the top 6. We get to grab any 2 blue flare pieces and then play out a Kiriha among them for free. This instantly is the best way to establish our Kiriha, and we also get to use the delay to gain 2 memory back later on when we want to. This new Kiriha is going to give us the starter main ramping effect where we can keep tucking sources underneath to continue to gain memory, which is going to be fantastic. Now I have the extra pieces and I'm pretty much set up for next turn to keep going and keep attacking as much as possible. Generally, the win condition with Blue Flare is just to find as many opportunities as possible and attack. And then once we take down the opponent's security, we basically just continue to rush for game eventually. Very fast, very simple aggro strategy. Gonna go ahead and attack the ALittleSpoon. The reason why I played the new ALittleSpoon first is not really only just to tuck additional source underneath Kiriha, it's just so that I can utilize the on deletion of my Digimon to draw an additional card, whereas I attack with my ALittleSpoon, I'm always intended for it to be deleted. There we managed to find the BT10 Blue-Greymon, and we get to play it out off its effect and continue to find everything else we need here. Afterwards, I pass turn by establishing a second Kiriha, and having multiple copies is totally fine because we can gain additional memory and we can work with. Ideally, we want to have the memory setter, but this is going to be workable as well, and we are going to continue to establish more attacks. I'm going to go ahead and slide things underneath as soon as I hatch, and tucking in away the sources that are generally going to be level 4, otherwise it's going to be our Z-Greymon, just so our metalgreymon can digicross utilizing the tamers. I'm just going to go ahead and attack with the ALittleSpoon, hoping for it to be deleted because it also has that on deletion effect to tuck more sources too. Now, since I have 3 memory, I'm just going to end the turn by establishing the dual tamer Kiriha Nene, which is going to constantly give us additional memory at the starter main as long as there's 2 or more Digimon on the board, including both my side and the opponent's side in total. And then we also get to utilize digicrossing requirements from the trash, which is really nice. So the opponent is going to come out with Impmon, they're going to go into Wizard, looks like going to ramp up pretty much. They have a memory boost to work with, they can easily get into a Baomon or even a level 6 beyond in this particular turn and start doing things. Digimon is still relatively explosive, and 2 really aggressive decks are really just trying to race against each other. I feel like we have a little bit of the edge on the upper hand just because I feel like we're a little bit faster, but as Blue Flare, we're not really gonna be able to gain as much of the full benefits of having the opponent to have 2 Digimon on the board for us to unsuspend, make additional attacks, just because I feel like Digimon is still rather one stack at the moment, and then they establish, and that way we're gonna have to have like matching their pace a little bit before they get into Digimon X as they start trashing our security. That's what I'm most worried about. But situation looks okay just because I have a number of metalgreymons that I can work with. Now I can make sure that I can start my turn or start playing with at least 3 memory, which is the really important number to make sure that we can go ahead and play out our metalgreymon, rush for the attack before the turn ends. Looks like I'm going to swing over our ALittleSpoon with the Baomon here. They're going to be able to trash a ton of cards as they attack, and now they're going to end with the starter deck Digimon, which is going to trash even more cards, gaining memory, keeping their turn, which is a little bit unfortunate for their end, just because if they were able to get into this and still keep their turn, then they could have possibly swung for 2 checks, go into Bill's X even, and set up for pretty much like a lethal turn following. But looks like they're going to come down with a calling play here, deleting it, and then trying to grab 2 pieces back. Of course, it's going to be the Bill's X because you generally want to see that in your hand once you get into another Digimon. And because they have that Baomon on deletion effect, they get to play a Digimon back, and if they continue to trash cards in the following turn, they can keep gaining memory non-stop, which is pretty insane. We're going to go out and push out, and we're just going to continue to attack. I know they potentially could be playing the Digimon Blast Mode Ace that can pretty much counter against us and delete our things, but it's totally generally fine for us. I don't mind having my stuff deleted anyways, and I can gain value. So I'm just going to keep aggressively attacking as much as I can. Now I'm going to go ahead and digicross to go into Metal Gray here, stunning down that Digimon because it has no sources. I'm going to rush and attack, like I mentioned, with jamming, and I'm not afraid of having a Blast Mode Ace come down on me. Now I just want to find a way to end the turn, try to give them as little memory as possible, just because I couldn't finish it off this turn. Now, one thing I realized with the new Kiriha is just because as I'm tucking sources underneath, I'm actually losing cards in my hand and I don't have as much to work with. So therefore, this is one of the downsides a little bit, just because your hand management becomes really important, and having our Gaussmons survive and Ukomon on the board will help us gather more cards as we need. But I have no rookie to Digivolve in the back. There's nothing to work with. The opponent's at 3 memory. We're trying to see if they're able to actually do anything here. Now remember, they can't swing with the Biyuzamon because it's stunned down with the metalgreymon, which is going to be great. Otherwise, they're going to have to find ways to board clear us, and it looks like they're going to come down with a Bioza X, which is going to trash pretty much, I think, 2 security on our side because they have over 20 cards. That instant damage is actually just really insane. And we're trying to see if they're able to make a comeback. But situation still looks pretty good for our side. Looks like they're going to go for Ayamako here to gain additional memory too. And now they can potentially play out another Impmon, maybe warp into another Biyuzamon perhaps. And then looks like they're going to do that. Now they can use the new Ayamako since they have 20 more cards. They can go into the start at Biyuzamon once again, trashing the top 4 cards, and then they can gain memory. Not going to be able to keep turn here, unfortunately, but that will basically pass to us. We should have enough swings here to finish the game off. We can even play around at least one Biyuzamon Blast Mode Ace. We're going to use our starter main, which are running out of resources to tuck underneath the new Kiriha, but we're just going to go ahead and attack. And at this point, we're going to continue to swing. Looks like they don't have one to counter against us, and we managed to get it in the first game. All right, next game, we're facing off against Eosmon. Here, generally in this matchup, I haven't faced against it in a long while, so I'm not super familiar with what it does. But I was gonna say, I do remember they try to go wide with their board, and that's actually perfect for us as Blue Flare, because as soon as they have 2 or more Digimon, that is the juiciest part for us to establish all of our advantages right away. So I think generally this deck has a pretty good matchup against it, but my starting hand doesn't have a rookie, but that's okay. And as you guys know, the whole reason is to keep it simply because of 1 card. I have Blazing Memory Boost. As a matter of fact, I got 2 to work with as well. So as soon as I hatch my egg, I'm going to immediately go ahead and do it. And let's go ahead and start gambling to see if we can find a key here. Unfortunately, not on the first one, but we'll get another one in the next one for sure. Now we got another one to work with, and I didn't want to pop my previous one just because I felt like they're going to start at 3 memory anyways with their Manoa. And I'm okay with giving them an extra one to work with because I can really pop off with multiples of them afterwards. Finding the Kiriha this time, Memory Setter is the one that's fantastic because now we get to play with even more memory, which is great. Notice how I didn't have a Ukomon in the beginning. That's a little bit of a downside of this deck when you play Ukomon, is because if you Digivolve into Uko, you lose your blue source. But now we established a Kiriha, we can go ahead and Digivolve into Uko no problem, because Kiriha is being the blue tamer allows us to fulfill that blue source, and we can go ahead and play Blazing Memory Boost if we need to. They're going to go ahead and start attacking and chipping into us, already establishing a second Eosmon on the board, which really is going to entice us to potentially go into Metal Gray plays and start brushing them down as quickly as possible. Generally, this matchup is still going to be the same in terms of what our game plan is as Blue Flare. We want to attack, attack, attack. Now I'm going to Digivolve into Uko, pop my Blazing, probably play out another Blazing, and continue to enjoy the search fantasy of grabbing anything I want. Here, I want to grab the Rush new Blue Greymon. I want to grab the male Bergermon to ensure that I have jamming as well. That way I can gather the perfect pieces, so when I go to Digicross into Metal Gray, I can pretty much have a very optimal, powerful Digicross stack. Gonna hard drop the Gaussmon using its on play to tuck something underneath one of our Kiriha, and then we're pretty much set up and ready to go. Not too sure that how far they can pop off here, but they do have additional resources. I think the wider the board is, the better it is for them as well. So I'm going to continue to attack, play out another body. I feel like at this moment, they're just kind of committing to the fact that, yeah, this deck is just naturally has to play a lot of bodies. Maybe they go wide enough to see if we can stun them, because I know Eosmon can go wider beyond the stunning capabilities of Blue Flare. So maybe if they do get to that stage, it could be still problematic for us and our stunning wouldn't have mattered as much. But here they get to climb all the way up into the BT17 level 6 Eosmon, and they get to get a lot of advantage off of it, and pretty much probably going to pop our Gaussmon, which I'm okay with because we still at least get a on deletion effect. And I know that they continue to spawn more Eosmons, they're spawning more Tamers. They have a lot of effects that allows us to play Tamers as well, which is going to be really enticing, but it's unfortunate that we don't have anything in our hand. All we have is just Digimon at the moment, and it would be nice if we can play more Tamers for free, because if we are able to, we can rush them down even faster. Now they're going to continue to attack, they're going to have such a wide board, they have so many attacks that potentially it can be dangerous for us, because right now we are looking like in a losing position, because the next turn they pretty much have lethal. And this is the moment where I'm feeling like, okay, I might gotta start doing something. I probably need to clear the board, but I'm also looking at the gameplay now, reflecting upon maybe I actually could have went for a game. Now, I don't know what kind of security bombs they play, what kind of security they may have. I know Cutting Edge is one of them that can potentially remove bodies. Now, I know that I made a little bit of a mistake where I should be using the starter main to tuck in the source underneath Kiriha before digivolving the Gaussmon in the back, but I had an extra copy of that BT10 blue-greymon, which I'm still good. But back to the current situation, I was considering going for the game-winning play, but I just wanted to be a little bit safe, so I'm going to go Digicross into the new metalgreymon, which I really like, because my plan is to attack, and then when attacking, I de-digivolve their stack, and I also get to unsuspend thanks to having the BT10 Greymon. And then I can repeat that again, so I'm going to go for the safer play, I'm going to board clear. Even if they redirect, doesn't matter to me, because I'm going to continue to target that main stack that has the most sources underneath. And now, with the actual last attack, I can go into the Z-Gray from underneath my Kiriha with its when attacking effect, and then now digivolve and gain 2 memory back, which is absolutely insanely free. And then I get to also unsuspend, and at the end of the attack, I get to play something back from sources too. And I'm going to go for the blue Greymon to continue to search and find the rest of other pieces, and now I have to worry about is to clear off that other Eosmon, find a way to end turn, stop those Eosmons from attacking, which I have that contingency plan anyways, because I have the older Metal Gray. So to set myself up a little bit better in that following next turn so I can go for the game-winning play, I'm going to go ahead and chip with the Uko, draw additional cards, see what I can find. And this is the moment where I'm going to go into the older Metal Gray to stun down those Eosmons so they can't attack and they can't spawn more. And then now I can go for one more chip damage. And now I'm trying to see if I want to continue to attack, but I don't want to, just because I felt like in this spot I'm good. I can pretty much go for lethal the next turn with even more attacks, and I don't want to run into anything in security that can potentially give them value. I feel pretty confident that they can't end us here just yet. And I'm also not worried if they somehow find a way to climb all the way up to even like a Quartzmon, which I know is definitely a popular top end for Eosmon, and that actually really counters us because it prevents us from unsuspending. But I have another new Metal Greymon to work with, and I know as soon as I attack with it, I get to de-digivolve it, and I'm free from that anyways. The other tip in this matchup that I was trying to do in the entire course of the game was not to suspend my Kirihas, because as long as I have an Eosmon on the board, our Tamers won't be able to unsuspend. So I'm saving again for that moment when I need to really use the sources from underneath. But it looks like they're going to end with Aquilamon, popping our Gaussmon so that we tuck another source. We're going to go ahead and use a starter main. We have a lot of memory to work with. We should have more than enough swings. I don't anticipate any counterplay at this moment. So I'm just going to go ahead and check as much as I can and attack as much as I can because I have way more than lethal. I'm going to utilize everything I have on the board, swing with the Z-Gray, use the Metal Gray inherited effect afterwards to play out another Gray that can rush out, attack, and now with one security left, really, there's nothing stopping us. We're just wilding with a lot of attacks non-stop, finishing it off. Alright, this game we're going to up the challenge against the one of best decks of the meta, which is Gallantmon. Here in our opening hand, we're not going to keep it. We are going second, so we have additional draw. Once again, all I'm trying to look for is Blazing Memory Boost, Rookies, and Tamers. And then eventually I want to see my searching cards such as the Blue Greymon. So those are the cards that you generally want to see instead. And the opening hand wasn't really going to get us there. So I felt like a mulligan would be good. And here we find a little bit okay. I'm really happy already. Blazing Memory Boost is all I need. And I can just basically start going. No rookie to work with just yet, but that's okay. Because here I'm contemplating, okay, if I go for the Blazing, and then which Kiriha do I really want to play out? I wanted to go for the memory setter one, even though I had one in the hand already, just because I really want to start my turn at 3 memory and I don't want to hard drop the other one for 4 costs and having to cash out my memory boost if I don't necessarily need to until I'm ready to go for big plays. Looking back, I could have played the 3-cost Neo Kiriha instead, and then I could have tucked sources underneath and then just gain memory, and I have a lot more to work with, and then eventually I would play out the memory setter one after the fact. But here I felt like, you know what, I needed to go ahead and go aggressive just because this deck is fast and it looks like they're gathering pieces to go into their stack. So I'm going to continue to find and search pieces that I need at the moment, set up an optimal play, and then get ready for the clapback if I need to. Because at any time, they can easily just climb from their Growl X in the back into pretty much a Gallon if they can. They have a Gilmon outside to work with as well, so they can actually cycle through a lot too with it. So it looks like they're going to go into the new Growl, which is going to play out a Tocado, and then here is like trying to see if they have a level 5 play to bridge on. And they might possibly do, but we're okay just because I feel like I have Uko in the next turn. I'm going to have 3 memory at least. I can pop the boost, and they looks like go into the War Growl Ace, which is going to delete our blue-gray, which we get to tuck underneath our Kiriha for saving anyways. They're going to gain that memory back with Tocado and the War Growl Ace's effect anyways. And yeah, they can pretty much now go into a Gallon and still blitz an attack before the turn ends. So they go into the BT17 one. It's going to gain a lot of DP off of this, and they can pretty much go for a 1-check blitz and finding a Z-Gray for us in the trash, which we're not going to really be able to utilize. You guys have saw we pretty much bottom deck our Kiriha Nenes in that early stages too. So we're not going to be able to utilize. That's the only card that's really going to let us get sources back from trash. So I'm going to go ahead and swing with Uko right away. I know they just continuously delete things, so there's no point of keeping bodies on the board. But before I digivolve into another one, I'm trying to see if I can actually deal with this stack here. And I possibly can, because I can go into the new Metal Gray, de-digivolve it. And if I can find another way to de-digivolve it again, or maybe swing over it, then I get Ace Overflow off that War Growl, and I get 3 memory back, which is going to be really good, so that at least I dealt with 1 stack. But I realized I wouldn't be able to swing over it even if I had the Z-Gray combo by going over it, just because they have that extra DP from the Gallon prior that lasts pretty much until the end of opponent's turn. But the other reason why I still wanted to de-digivolve it regardless is because I don't want to deal with Gallon X, because I think it's just very difficult to deal with in this particular deck against it. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop my boost, give them as little to work with as possible, set up my second Kiriha, and then see what they do from there. Now the opponent is playing very carefully by keeping their secondary stack reserved in the back, just so they don't accidentally push out, and giving us 2 bodies, feeding us into many advantages as well. And this is how it becomes tricky for us to then play around stack-based decks. And like I mentioned earlier, I was afraid of the Gallon X, and they definitely have it. They got into it anyways. Although they're not going to be able to gain like the DP buffs and everything, they can still pop us because we're below 10k. We generally don't have a lot of DP as Blue Flare, so it's very easy and susceptible for them to basically delete and remove us, but at least we get to save some sources underneath. Now, we're going to go ahead and push out, we're going to tuck source underneath, and then we're just going to go ahead and probably try and chip away, but I'm going to play out that Gaussmon as before, just because I noticed I had the Missymon egg. That way I can put a source, and that way I have another Digimon, and then when I swing into this, when I get deleted, at least I get to draw a card and potentially play out a level 4, which is very likely since Gaussmon's only 1k anyways. So I'm going to draw that 1 card, and then I'm going to play out the old male Bergermon, which can help me grab a metalgreymon back from the trash, which I actually don't have anymore in my hand. Now I gotta figure out a way to pass turn and try to not give them as much to work with as possible, but I don't have anything that's pretty much 2 cost. So I'm gonna have to likely play out this Uko and then see what they do. And this is not the greatest position, just because we're giving them a lot of bodies that they're just gonna pop anyways, and they're gonna gain all that memory back. I'm actually also slightly running out of steam here, because I don't have other rookies to continue to digivolve in the back. I only have like male birds, and then I have a couple metal grays I can utilize, but I can't find a chance to play out my second blazing memory boost, which I really want to, because generally once you're against these kind of fast-paced decks that have so much explosive power, there's no more time and no more opportunity for you to set up and establish anything more on the board, because I'm going to end up giving them a lot of memory to work with, which is something I didn't want to do either. But maybe looking back on that whole previous turn, my play was probably just tuck in a source underneath Kiriha and then gain that memory, be at 4, and then I could have just ended with a blazing, and I would have been able to put them at 1 memory, and then I'll be able to gather other resources and then pop off in the following turn. But it always feels like the time is ticking against them, just because if they continue to attack, they get to unsuspend, they get to trash their security, we're gonna lose a lot either. And then suddenly they can pretty much like take us down from nowhere. So here now, we may have a chance in play. And I actually made a big mistake. I should not have tucked in the new Z Gray underneath that Kiryu to gain that memory. I should have tucked in something else, because the only way for us to play around the Gallantmon effect immunity is to put the memory gauge on the opponent's side, where I could have easily digicrossed here like I was doing so anyways, and then not attack to play around a potential Crimson Mode Ace, but to actually hard digivolve into Zeke for the 3 cost, passing them to 2, which will then allow me to de-digivolve 2 on them, getting rid of the Wargrout Ace as well, and I would gain Ace Overflow back, which would actually have dealt with that stack, and then I had the choice to swing over the remaining body, forcing them to push out that final play, and then even pressure the security in the following turns, or find another way to reset up and establish momentum all over again. But now they have so many resources. They have scramble delay, they have a training, they have a boost. I know they're pretty much ready to climb up all over again, and it's just a really tight situation. But at least I could have done that despite them being able to record resources. But here they have a Crimson mode and pretty much wiping us out. Even with Z Gray on deletion, we get to play something back out from sources, but it's not going to do too much and save, which here I'm just going to go ahead and play out the EX4 male Bergermon, intending just to like give the Crimson mode like a mini ice wall effect. But I think like we all can see, I think this is going to be pretty doomed because we don't have much of a follow-up play. So in order to give the opponent as little memory as possible, even they don't have a memory setter Tocado, they can just gain so much value off of it, because as long as they're popping their stuff, our stuff, they're going to continue to gain memory non-stop, and they don't even need to have a memory setter to begin with. So I'm just going to digicross, put them to 2, not going to be able to do too much there, not going to be able to make an attack, not going to be able to de-digivolve them, which is very juicy if we're able to, because they're no longer immune at this particular moment. Because of having that Crimson Mode Ace going on top of the Gallant X, they lose that effect. But now they start their turn, they pretty much get to stack the BT17 Gallant. We know they have a Wargrout X to go into. The question is whether they have a Wargrout or any like kind of X antibody cards to get the maximum benefits. But I feel like they don't really need to at this point, because with the amount of boosts they have, they can easily climb up into Gallant X. They're probably going to pop our board entirely, gain memory back, swing for potentially 2 checks, depending on what the 2 checks are. I know we don't really have bombs in our deck here to really counter them. And as long as they're at perfectly 0 memory too with the BT17 Gallant, they're pretty much immune to everything. So it looks like they're going to go push out here, use the delay boost to gain memory, delay boost of training to go into Wargrout X. So no Wargrout there, but the Wargrout X, like I said, is still going to be able to pop something. They're probably not going to swing with the Crimson Mode Ace first because it is going to lose 2 memory. So they're probably going to use it and save it for the finishing attack instead. And then here with Gallantmon, they pretty much get to pop our Metal Gray or our Male Bird. We don't have any aces to sort of like play around them either, really. So yeah, it looks like they're going to go for that Metal Gray. They get to gain memory back. Looks like they want to gain the full amount, so they're not going to have immunity. Now they swing, and on the swing, they get to pop the Male Bird. BT17 Gallantmon is not even once per turn effect either, and they have sources underneath to pop things anyways too at the same time. Now hopefully our security is good, but a Zeke, which actually matches the DP, but it was too late. If it was the first check, it would have been better, and then they finish us with Crimson mode. Make sure to get your very own Initialized Spar collection on the AVAULT store right now, and definitely watch the latest Battle Vault episode to get exclusive discount codes for this latest drop. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you next video, and this is AVAULT signing out.